Good Sunday morning. I'm Julie Fine from NBC5.
And I'm Gromer Jeffers, political writer with the Dallas Morning News. We begin this morning with budget cuts that would impact a program supporting thousands of jobs here in North Texas.
We spoke with Congressman Mark Veasey about the plan to cut the number of F-35 Joint Strike Fighters made in Fort Worth by Lockheed Martin. Thanks so much for being with us, Congressman.
Good to see you, Julie. Gromer.
All right.
In the president's budget, the Biden administration has proposed buying 30 fewer F-35 fighter planes. Those are, of course, built by Fort Worth-based Lockheed Martin. You're against this proposal. So what do you do?
Obviously, we're going to try to see if we can get that addressed, possibly through NDAA. I'm more than happy to sit down and talk about the importance of F-35 with anyone in the administration that would like to. This plane is going to be the difference maker. Not only in Europe, but also in maintaining the peace all over the world eventually. And so we need to make sure that as the leaders of this project, that we're making the right investment in this to help keep costs down, to help keep those numbers up. So over time, the plane can become less and less expensive, not only to U.S. taxpayers, but also to our European and other worldwide allies.
Congressman, you just mentioned keeping costs down. Of course, this project has been marked to some degree by cost overruns, $440 million one year. So what do you say to the person who says, hey, because of those problems, maybe it is time to slow it down and take a step back?
I would say, Gromer, that if we scrapped every program from the Defense Department that has had cost overruns and difficulties before it became a successful venture, that Saddam Hussein would be alive right now, and he would probably be sitting in a palace in Saudi Arabia. There are always issues with all of these platforms. We saw it with F-16. We've seen it with many other platforms that defense contractors and U.S. military are still using today, and we've seen it in the past. It sometimes it takes a while to get these up and going. And the F-16 is a perfect example of that. It's still considered perhaps the greatest fighter that we've ever seen in aviation history. And there are videos of it sliding off of a runway on YouTube in its early days, in its infancy. And so it's just the reality. You have to make these investments to get them right. They do a lot more than just a traditional passenger airplane. There's a lot of technology in F-35s and in these other platforms. And we have to make sure that if we want to maintain world peace and we want to maintain the order that's been established since the end of World War II, that we keep making the investments that are necessary in what is becoming a more and more of a dangerous world. And you look at the Ukraine, one of the reasons why they were vulnerable is because they have not been able to make the same sort of investments in defense that we have.
Are you working with your colleague, your Fort Worth colleague, Representative Kay Granger, on this issue?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll always work closely with Kay on anything that's F-35 related, and other Republicans and Democrats throughout the country that also have key pieces of F-35s in places like New Jersey, Connecticut, other key members of Congress that work on this program as well.
You spoke of Ukraine a moment ago. There are now more sanctions against Russia. But again, is NATO doing enough as this drags on?
Yeah, I think that NATO is doing as much as they possibly can. Obviously, our NATO friends and allies, that they don't like what's happening right now. They obviously want to stop this from going any further than it is right now, and doing anything like trying to implement a no-fly zone would obviously escalate the situation and would draw them into this conflict even further. And they don't want that. Quite frankly, I doubt that the Russians want to look for an excuse to draw the French or the Germans or other NATO partners in. So we're doing as much as we can as Team NATO without this thing really getting a lot worse, because what people need to understand is that as bad as it is right now with the footage that you're seeing in parts of the Ukraine, it would be a lot worse were this to become World War III. and you saw more major powers engaged in this conflict. Because then, if you did that, you would see the Iranians get in, perhaps even the Chinese and other state actors that are much less rational, and their values are more aligned with countries like Russia.
Congressman, the nation's poised to make history pretty soon with the nomination and possible confirmation of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson as a Supreme Court justice. Your thoughts on that? It looks like it's going to happen. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm excited. I think that she's going to be an amazing jurist. I think that she's going to look at all the cases rationally. I also think that I think it's wonderful that she has experience working as a defense attorney. The fact that Tom Cotton tried to malign her the way that he did, and other members, Ted Cruz, other members of the Senate, and that they, spoke so disparagingly of her because she was doing her job, I think is sad. You either believe in our system or you don't. And in our system, everyone's entitled to fair and competent representation, regardless of how much money they have. Obviously, some people can afford to buy more representation and more competency than others. But at the end of the day, we have a system and we have a document called the United States Constitution, and you either believe in it or you don't. And saying that some people shouldn't get representation is no different than having a lynch mob or having a group of people that take the law into their own hands, where we have anarchy. And I don't believe in that. I believe in the U.S. Constitution.
Congressman Veasey, good to see you. Hopefully we'll see you next time in North Texas.
Absolutely, Julie. Gromer, good to see you all.